you don't have necessary skills for employment, and not just that, that you don't have the necessary attitude and behavior.
The younger ones are feeling a sense of entitlement. They want to get a job in government, not necessarily to work.
We've spoken a lot about what participants of the NTA or what job seekers, what they fail to do, what they fail to accept, their sense of entitlement. But is there a responsibility on the employer's end of things, the other side of things?
Yeah, I would say, and I would look at two aspects of it. And the first aspect that I think is the most egregious one is you have some employers that are irresponsible or not good employers. And in order to work for them or to maintain employment with them, you have to allow yourself to be abused and taken advantage of. We have far too many employers in the country that violate basic human rights, that violate the Employment Act, right? And even that violate just decency and good conscience, right? There's a minimum wage in place. And some would try to not pay that and find ways around that even. And so forth, and then try to work people beyond the standard hours, which is 8 hours a day or 40 hours a week, and not want to pay overtime. You know, the stories, you have a barmaid who's supposed to get off at 11 o'clock, but a group of guys come in the bar and they're spending money and they're having a good time. The barmaid then leaves at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and you don't want to pay them overtime, right? So the conditions you create in your workspace, if they're not conducive with decency and good employment, someone may actually be employable, but they're not willing to subject themselves to that kind of treatment. And so we at the Department of Labor, we trying to stamp out that and to make sure that the conduct of the employers are consistent, their conduct is consistent with at least the minimum, the Employment Act. And then beyond that, when employers onboard people, you find sometimes that they onboard people and they don't provide them with the training that's necessary. Right. There's no plan in place that was alluded to by Ms. Marcelle to improve them from one step to the next. Some employers, especially the smaller ones, expect that they onboard you and you pick it up as you go along.
That is true.
But you should be intentional in training your employee to get them to be the type of employee that you want them to be. There should be a molding plan, especially if you bring on someone who's young and still able to learn and to be taught. You should have something in place to create a better employee for your company. And then your rewards in terms of benefits and pay should be commensurate to improvement in their skills.
Now, once unemployment numbers go up, and particularly if they increase, it seems automatic that the blame is on the government. But governments have put in place a series of programs. Apart from the National Training Agency, you have the Youth Guard, you have the National Apprenticeship Program, you even have expanded programs in BTVI. Would you say that more need, from the Department of Labor standpoint, would you say that more need to be done with these programs? They exist, but is there, for lack of a better phrase, room for improvement in all of them? And will this be done?
Yeah, I think the greatest deficiency in all of those programs is actually awareness. Once the people are enrolled in the programs, they do pretty well. You know, the odd one may be rejected, and I think Ms. Marcelle has pointed out some situations where the program can help certain people. But I think for the most part, once people are enrolled in the programs, they do pretty well. It's awareness of the program, and it's the willingness of the citizen to enroll in the program. And so I think more awareness, advertisement, more push at the levels once they right out of school or the last year in school, to let them know that even though you may not be academically successful, there's still an option for you in our country. There are all these needs that we have in skills area, technical area, vocational areas that you could fill with these programs. And so I think the deficit in the program is actually in its awareness, not in its actual conduct or actions when it's being carried out.
And I think, Ms. Marcelle, the NTA also plays a role in.
Yes, we do. We do most of the soft skills training for the cadet program at the Defense Force. And that's a program I can tell you is so near and dear to the heart of our Prime Minister. That man has a heart for wanting the best for the young people of the Bahamas. And so we do that, but I do want to say up to Mr. Laroda that the enrollment isn't really the problem. Case in point, our last cohort, this cohort we have running right now, we had something like, I think it was 178 or something young people that we admitted into the program, that registered for the program. When the program was about to start, about 130 or so of them were supposed to come in the first day. Yeah. We ended up with just slightly under 80. So we wanted to know why that was. So my team went, did some telemarketing.
Right.
Quite a number of them had gotten jobs, they said. The others said, well, we're looking for something else. So the opportunities are out there for them to embrace. We have to do a little bit more in terms of getting true statistics as to where the most employment falls. Because I believe it's in my group, that's the lower 54%. I do not believe that there is a problem per se in the upper, 46%. Those would be what we consider the smart ones.
Right.
But that is the group that the powers that be and everybody seem to want to keep pushing. It's that group down there that we have the problem, because they're the ones who want plenty of money but aren't equipped to get plenty of money. And then I would also say with employers, sometimes I really don't think they understand, because when you hire someone, it goes far beyond the onboarding. I like to use fancy words. But if you were to hire me in here, you have to coach me along the way. Right. Coaching is never done in how to do what you want me to do the way you want me to do it. You can't just bring me and then do it. That's it, and then they say, oh, these awful employees, which sometimes tend to happen. And so we also, as we work with them, we also have to work with supervisors and managers. And let me tell you, it's real hard with Bahamians, supervisors and managers, because many Bahamian managers, just like he says, don't know how to talk to their employees, don't know how to coach them. And I have found, when I was out in the workplace like that, the foreign ones had a much easier time, because we tend to work easier and better with the foreign ones. But when it comes to us, so Macushla, that's another problem we have in the workplace. And I believe until we can identify them, until we can talk about them, we won't necessarily change much of anything.
I'm going to add another dynamic to this. The Gen Zs, you referenced it before, the newer generation, the Gen Zs, the millennials, who be real about it, they don't stay on a job long. If you make them mad, if they fed up, they are not returning. Do you think this had any bearing, this group of job seekers or people working had any bearing on first quarter unemployment numbers?
Oh, yes, definitely. Even me, my background, I was a teacher. And when I first came into the profession, the expectation was 30, 40 years in education. You didn't have much people saying, I'm going to leave. But like the last 2-3 years, we had some teachers, they come in, they don't like how things go, they're offended at something or something takes too long, and they're gone. This group of people don't have the patience that we once had. They have higher expectations on how they are to be treated. So they don't stay around as long, and a lot of times they wait for the ideal job. When I was young, I did all sorts of odd jobs and I worked until I got the job I wanted.
The ideal job and the ideal pay.
Right. No, they don't, so they're waiting. Right. And so I've spoken to some of them who said, you know what, I can't wait for that. But I said, you're not doing anything. Right. So do this now.
And you've just started.
Yeah, get a little something. and then until what you really want come to fruition.
Right.
But they don't, that type of patience. But I also want to say something else, because you referenced the unemployment numbers for quarter one. And I'm not trying to be controversial, but I've said this when I was interviewed by Zadanessa in Grand Bahama. Quarter one did not take into account some of the new investments in the Bahamas. For example, we have Celebration Key in Grand Bahama that hired in excess of 600 Bahamians, but they hired them in June, which was after quarter one. So I have an expectation there was an expansion by the container port. Right, they would have onboarded a large number of employees. There's an expansion at the shipyard. Norwegian Cruise Line did a job fair last week, so I'm expecting some improvements there. So I'm just saying that all these things being considered, the government has responsibility to manage the economy, but the government is not the sole employer in the economy. There's some other things that have to happen and be a part of it as well.
Or you're watching In Depth. Stay with us. Okay, what do you say to the person who goes away to school? They get their bachelor's, they come home, no interviews, no callbacks, just crickets. They look at their counterpart who stayed here, probably went to the University of the Bahamas, stayed in the system, so to speak, in terms of working while going to school, and gets a call as soon as they come out of school. You know, for me, who went away from school, I'd say, this is an unfair advantage. What's the point of me going off? You have those people in the unemployment figures speak to those people. They can't find a job, and more so those people are females.
Well, the first thing is, before you go away to school, you should look at the economy and see if the thing you're going to take up, if opportunities exist in the economy for those things. You go away and get some weird degrees and come back and those degrees are not, there's no need to go away and do a degree in lesbian dance theory and think that when you come back to the Bahamas, there's a place for you in that.
Is that a real degree?
So, I'm just saying, right? So, first of all, be realistic about how your skills and degree and your knowledge could translate into the economy, or think of like an entrepreneur and use this degree and these new skills to create something that don't exist. But don't go and do something that's way out that don't exist here, and then you frustrated your country because that job, we are growing in a developing country. We're doing quite well, but comparing us to what you could get in the US and Canada is still not fair. Now, what we have done at the Department of Labor, and the Director of Labor, Mr. Thompson, has pushed this. He's asked all of the Bahamians that are in foreign, as we say, to register in our labor portal in the Bahamas, so that when a job becomes available, that we could contact you and say, come and do this job. Or if the companies apply for an expat to come in to take the job, we want to look in our portal first and see if there's a Bahamian somewhere in the US or Canada or Dubai who can do the job and let them have an opportunity to come home. So we are trying to do our part in that. But my encouragement is try to get degrees in the field that the Bahamas could offer you employment in, or that it could transition easily into you being an entrepreneur. But there's no need to go and get a degree that sounds good and it's fancy, but actually has no place in this economy. So you'll be practical.
From the Department of Labor standpoint, what professions, and Ms. Marcelle, you can speak from your experience, what professions are most needed? I know some years back we said the lawyer's profession, the lawyer profession was oversaturated.
It's still oversaturated.
We have a lot of people coming out as doctors each year. I could tell you from the journalism profession, we have a void there. But what are you seeing?
There's still a tremendous amount of need for teachers, particularly in the technical and vocational areas, and your physics and your chemistry, right? There's still a huge need for nurses as well, because we go to Africa and Cuba and other Caribbean countries to try to get these people. So there's a tremendous amount of need in those areas. We still need the doctors as well. We still need people in technical areas to do with marine skills and shipping and so forth. And you still need even managers in the tourism sector with hotels and so forth, tourism being a #1 industry. So there's a wide range, and we're expanding in maritime as well. So if you get degrees in industries related to maritime, I think the Bahamas are going to provide, and you could be a part of building that industry to higher heights. But like I said, be practical and be intentional as to what you're going to do. Don't just go and do some weird degree and then think that you dislike the Bahamas because you can't find it. Be practical. But there's a lot of industries, like I said. I doubt anybody who went away and got a degree in education, one of the sciences, English. Like we have a severe shortage of English teachers even, right? And so those things, yeah, we really need them.
Any advice from you, Ms. Marcelle?
Yeah, immigration policies and immigration information should be very helpful in guiding us to what we need, because we know what the permits coming for: teachers, nurses,
engineers,
and therapy people, and everything like that. He mentioned the marine area, and that could be big, because one company alone, say a company like MSC, they have so many ships out there, so many. The thing is, do we want to do those things? We want to do what we want to do, and then come back and feel that a country is obligated to find you something. Well, the reality is it doesn't work like that. A company grows or economy grows in a certain way. And that's why, again, Prime Minister was trying to push all the different colored economies to try to get people to do those things. Right in my building going on now, there's some training that has to do, I guess, with the arts and dancing and all that sort of stuff.
Right.
Good stuff happening. So what Mr. Laroda says is absolutely correct. When you're going off to school, don't think you could just go off. And young people have to understand that degrees, real ones, were around for a long, long time.
Long before ChatGPT.
And so they have to understand this. Plus, this world is a game of being competitive. When you come back with your degree, you still have to try to get the job. And nobody is going to reel it to you. You may have to go out and look for yours. And I have encountered some who say, I'm not doing that. They ain't called me back. Or I got my degree. Why should I settle for $40,000 or $50,000? But when I came back with mine, I settled for 5.4, and look where I am. And they have a tendency to look at you where
Yeah,
you are
now.
already. They don't count the 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. They just see
That you've invested in the game.
Yes. And so, you know, we just need to be more real, and people who talk reality are normally not very popular. Okay?
Yes.
But our country, look up, young people out there who go into school and all that, look at how your country is growing, expanding. Mr. Laroda pointed out where the opportunities are going to lie or do lie. And you're going to have to, you're going to have to make some, pivot is the word
Right,
people use.
right.
You're going to have to pivot. If you don't want to pivot, chances are you're going to be left behind.
Ms. Laroda, your final thought in terms of what's your prediction, your realistic prediction for where fourth quarter unemployment numbers will fall? And this given the fact that you noted that at least over in Grand Bahama, investments took root. What do you see those numbers coming in at?
Well, I would-
Particularly considering that they've been on an upclimb.
For Grand Bahama in particular, because that's where the investments are, I definitely think that you would see a decrease in the unemployment rate. And now whether that's large enough to impact the overall country, I think it may be or it may offset some lack of employment elsewhere. And so I do think that for Grand Bahama in particular, it will drop. I also believe that that will impact the overall rate, and the rate in the country will drop as well. But I could say, because I see the applications for labor certificates, as Ms. Marcelle was referring to earlier, the Bahamas produce a lot of jobs, right? Now whether those jobs are the kind that Bahamians want to take or they have the skills for is the question. And all of these programs are designed to make more Bahamians able to take advantage of these opportunities. And so my encouragement to all Bahamians, the young and the old, is to, as much as you can, prepare yourself for new opportunities. Get skilled. If you're older, upskill. Make a conscious effort to look at your country and be the Bahamian that takes advantage of the opportunities that are here.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Laroda and Ms. Marcelle, for joining us on In Depth.